Hello everyone, and many thanks for joining today's live stream news summary from Moscow program. It's 15th of September, now it's 11 o'clock in the morning Moscow time, and as always I have prepared quite a number of news on some major developments that Russian media and public is paying attention to, and hopefully you will find the news segment informative and interesting, useful. And if so, dear friends, as always, I will ask you to like the video, to click that like button, and to leave some commentary. During the live stream, chat is working, but if you are watching this video after live stream, then please leave some commentary in the comment section. More likes and comments most likely will help to deal with tremendously aggressive algorithm. Also, dear friends, before I get to excuse me, news segment, let me first of all thank Scooby for joining our Patreon community. Scooby became a Patreon for this project. Thank you very much. There was also yesterday after a fundraising stream, a few donations later on in the day, and before question time, before I join community chat after news segment, I will highlight information about that. Many thanks to Patrick for donation yesterday. I will say that anyways right now, and I believe there was also donation from Spark Y on Boosty. From Patrick was on PayPal, from Spark Y on a Boosty. So many thanks, dear friends, for support and attention. And also, dear friends, let me highlight one more topic. Let me highlight one more topic, which is that from now on I will also resume short videos from the live stream, because I understand the live streams are quite longer, 60 minutes, sometimes 1.5 hours, 2 hours or more. So therefore, many members of our community might have no time to watch entire videos. So therefore, I will publish short clips from a live stream during the day, 3, 4, 5 maybe, and so members of our community will have opportunity to pick on those short videos. So it will also help, of course, to communicate and also to maybe potentially reach wider audience. And that's been said, dear friends, let's start today's live stream. As I already said, after news segment, I will join community chat, and in case you want to make sure that I would not miss your question or commentary, you can use, of course, a super chat feature on Rumble, where my channel is monetized, or Rant, as it's called there. Otherwise, please use capital letters, dear friends, so that it will be a little easier while scrolling through chat to spot question or the commentary that is directed to me. That's been said, dear friends, let's go through some news now. And first of all, I want to report about this information from TASS news agency that Russian troops expanded their foothold on the left bank of the Volchansk city, which is a Kharkov region. As you know, dear friends, Russian armed forces creating a buffer zone in Kharkov region, in northern parts of Kharkov region, and for quite a long time, and some might argue even still until now, there is a sort of operational pause. Russian troops established control over the northern part of the city that is divided by Volchia River, and the southern part was controlled by Georgian forces. But lately, Russian troops began expanding their zone of control on the left side of Volchia, left bank of the Volchia River also. And we have this report that Russian troops in Volchansk, where Ukrainian forces are putting up fierce resistance, have advanced and strengthened their foothold on the city's left bank. Russian security agencies told the TASS news agency. We have a quote from the statement: in Volchansk, on the left bank of the Volchia River, their enemy is offering a fierce resistance and suffering heavy losses during their fighting. Soldiers of their battle group North advanced another 200 meters, expanding their positions on the town's left bank. Agency's source is reporting earlier security forces reported that heavy clashes were continuing on the left bank of the Volchansk and in the eastern part of the city. Ukrainian army redeployed reserves to this area, and also the friends just a couple of days ago I did see reports about activization of the Russian armed forces in Lipsy direction. Also, as you know, buffer zone in the northern part of Kharkov region is divided on two parts. One is Volchansk direction, another is Lipsy direction. Let me show you on the map these areas, dear friends. So this is in red. You see a buffer zone in a creation, and this is Volchansk city. And as you can see, dear friends, so-called gray zone is expanding on the left bank, and I guess this map is not yet updated. But Russian troops are advancing on this side of the city. Earlier, there was reports that Russian troops already infiltrated and established partial control of the industrial zone of the Volchansk on the left bank of the city, and on the western side is Lipsy direction. Lipsy is also relatively larger settlement here, and recently there were reports about activization of Russian forces in this area too. That's been said. Let's continue with some other news. And TASS news agency is reporting that command staff of the Ukrainian Airborne Assault Brigade was suspended due to heavy losses. In fact, their entire command staff of 95th Separate Airborne Assault Brigade of Ukrainian Armed Forces in the Sumy region has been temporarily removed from the command due to complaints from the relatives of the members of this brigade. This was reported to a TASS news agency by Russian security services. The command of the 95th Air Assault Brigade is being investigated by the State Bureau of Investigation of Ukraine based on numerous complaints from relatives. In fact, the entire command staff has been temporarily removed from the command. Some battalions have been withdrawn to replace losses, and some has been redeployed to other sectors of the front. The units remained in the Sumy direction have been transferred to the 47th Separate Mechanized Brigade. The agency source reported, and when it comes to this 95th Brigade, well, basically, brigade is no longer in existence, right? It suffered so much losses in the Sumy region, and it will take quite a time before the regime will manage to refill this brigade with the forcefully mobilized personnel, and whatever units from this brigade still exist physically, they've been transferred to 47th Separate Mechanized Brigade, which also, by the way, was refilled after tremendous losses at least a couple of times. 47th Brigade, Mechanized Brigade of Kiev regime, was destroyed, exterminated basically by Russian forces at least several times, and then this brigade was withdrawn. These forcefully mobilized individuals were poured in and sent back to the front line, and I guess it will not take long before very same will happen with this 47th Brigade. Also in this report we can read that earlier security forces reported that the largest number of missing servicemen in the Sumy region belong to 95th Brigade and the 225th Separate Assault Regiment of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. Interesting developments there. TASS news agency is also reporting that Russian armed forces entered the eastern outskirts of Konstantinovka, and this is, by the way, not DRGs. This is regular forces that enter in Konstantinovka now. The DRGs of Russian Federation are operating in area of this city for quite a while now. So Russian assault groups entered and consolidated their positions on the eastern outskirts of Konstantinovka. This was reported to us by the advisor to the head of DPR, Donetsk People's Republic, Igor Kimakovsky. And let me show you the difference where Konstantinovka is located. It's a DPR, of course, and this is Konstantinovka settlement, relatively bigger. Yet again, this map has not been updated at this point, and we cannot see where exactly on the eastern side Russian troops are entered their city. Maybe tomorrow update will be visible on this map. Also, I want to report that TASS news agency reporting based on a military expert from LPR, Lugansk People's Republic, that Ukrainian forces lost about 4.3 thousand soldiers and mercenaries in the battles near their LPR in last week. And this is just 1 week's losses of the Kiev regime's forces on the borderlines with their LPR. I remind you, dear friends, that Kiev regime is in no control of even a single settlement in Lugansk People's Republic, right? And currently, area of confrontation where Kiev regime still has some troops on the territory of Lugansk People's Republic is still Serebianka forestry, from which Kiev regime's forces are basically beginning to run away, right? But some DRGs might still operate there, and well, just on the borderlines with the LPR, Kiev regime lost 4.3 thousand troops in the past week. What about our entire front line? Casualty number is going to be for sure in dozens of thousands, right? 20, 30,000 around that. Definitely 30 plus thousand, because daily losses of the Kiev regime based on Russian Defense Ministry's updates are 12 to 1,500 military personnel all along the front line. And Defense Ministry, as always, by the way, Defense Ministry of the Russian Federation is always sharing extremely conservative data, including on a matter of losses of the Kiev regime. Also, dear friends, an interesting report is coming this morning from many media outlets, Russians and then others, that Ukrainian armed forces are left without Starlink internet along the entire front line, which is interesting. So Starlink has stopped working in the combat zone, said Robert Brody, commander of the Ukrainian armed forces, drone forces. Starlink has landed again along their entire front line. He wrote on his Telegram channel, according to Down Detector website, outages in the operation of this satellite internet system has been recorded all over the world, with their number of requests amounted to about 50,000. So there is some, it's not intentional action of the Starlink towards Kiev regime's forces. No, Starlink is experiencing some technical issues all over the world, and well, it did become handy for the Russian side, because this morning, and maybe until now, by the way, I did not see any update on the issue, but maybe until now, Kiev regime's forces still experiencing issues with their Starlink internet, which plays crucial role in the communication of the Kiev regime. I would be happy if we will find out sometime in the future that this destruction in the work of Starlink was done by Russian side, Russian experts somehow, right? That will make me definitely happier, because no knowledge that if necessary we can take out hostile networks is something positive to keep in mind, right? Also, TASS news agency is reporting that Russian aerospace forces received another batch of Frontline Su-34 bombers. Information is confirmed by Defense Ministry, and this morning I shared video, by the way, of this newest Su-34s when they were leaving factory of their manufacturer. So soon, I guess these frontline bombers will join Russian forces on the front line, and support Russian ground operations. Now let's talk about some other topics that are also related with the Ukrainian crisis, with this proxy war that West is waging against Russia. And the first news that I want to share with you, dear friends, is that Polish President Nawrocki signs official resolution allowing deployment of NATO forces on Polish soil. And earlier, dear friends, I did share information. I did share information that Poland, after this drone incident, is redeploying additional forces towards the Russian and Belarusian border. Also, NATO countries launched another operation under umbrella of which more military force and military equipment of the NATO countries are deployed towards the Poland. I did pay attention. I did share with you information about deployment of fighter jets, for example, from France, Germany, and others, right, to the Polish soil. And my take on this deployment was that, in my reading of the big picture, globalist controlled regimes in Europe and their allies in US, I'm quite sure planning their next phase of escalation with Russia, with the massive launches of drones and their cruise missiles to strike deep into Russian territory. With this next phase of escalation, enemies of Russia might actually try to conduct even decapitation strike on Russian political and military leadership. Simultaneously, they will activate their assets that they might and probably have on Russian territory to conduct large-scale terrorist attacks. And while this will happen, they will also use their secret services to orchestrate simultaneous cyber attacks on Russian, all sorts of Russian networks. The task will be, or task of this next phase of operation, if it will go ahead, will be to create chaos inside the Russia. I think they are going all in, by the way. Globalists and globalist control regimes in Europe, out of desperation, are basically going in completely, right? And they will escalate on such a scale that Moscow will most likely retaliate this time, and retaliate not just on the Q control territory, on enemy assets, but also on the countries, on military assets of the countries, NATO member states that will be engaged involved in this assault on Russia, after which there might be dear friends, my apologies. Electricity just went off. I guess there is some works being done again on the local electricity network. A few days ago, one of the neighboring buildings experienced some emergency, and I guess because of it, uh, work is still continuous, and electricity went off. I don't know how long notebook will last on its battery, but I will try to share as much news as I can, dear friends. Well, this is quite unfortunate, isn't it? This is quite unfortunate, but what can I do? So, well, it happens. It happens. So let me continue. I will be, I will try to share as many news as I possibly can, dear friends. So yes, I already reported that Polish President Nawrocki signed this official resolution to bring in officially, NATO troops to deploy NATO troops into Polish territory, and I think this is also part of a preparation of the globalist and globalist controlled regimes for this next phase of escalation. Simultaneously, dear friends, we have this report that according to RIA Novosti, Polish foreign minister, which is extreme Russophobe, by the way, this Sikorski, is demanding no-fly zone to be introduced over the so-called Ukraine. Polish foreign minister Radisław Sikorski, against the backdrop of a drone incident for which no evidence of their alleged Russian origin was provided. That's RIA Novosti's report, said that the issue of introduction of no-fly zone over Ukraine should be considered, but that Poland can only make such a decision together with its allies. So they're going to push for a no-fly zone. They're going to push. Globalists are desperate, by the way. They've been cornered by Russia. They've been cornered by also U.S. America First forces. And out of desperation, they are hysterical and they are going all in this with this proxy war against Russia. And same time, while Poland is calling for no-fly zone, very same foreign minister of Poland, Sikorski, is admitting that NATO countries are not that keen to enter war with Russia, and he's sorry about it. So European countries do not want to enter into a military conflict against Russia. This was stated by Polish Foreign Minister Radisław Sikorski. Ukrainian publication Strana UI reports. The head of the Polish Foreign Ministry noted that the effectiveness of the security guarantees that the whole West is talking about for Ukraine is questionable, according to him. Providing them to Kiev could mean the readiness of European countries to enter into a military conflict with Russia. And we have a quote from Sikorski: "I don't think this is convincing, that there is any credibility to it. Anyone who wants to fight Russia can start it right now, but I don't see anyone willing to do so," Sikorski said. So on one hand, they are escalating with Russia, trying harder to prolong this proxy war and preparing unprecedented scale of escalation. On the other hand, at least time to time, they are acknowledging that, one thing is to make statements and to conduct some operations while maintaining plausible deniability, but very different is to enter in war with Russia openly. And seems like no one in Europe, at least for now, willing to go to enter war directly, openly with Russia. And also interesting reports from Western media that NATO is vulnerable through drone attacks. And I don't think it's just the drones, by the way. NATO is vulnerable for many, many things. NATO is a paper tiger, obviously. And as time goes by, more and more people worldwide will realize that. Is there an issue with sound? No. So European NATO members' vulnerability to large-scale drone attack was exposed by the recent incident in Poland allegedly involving Russian drones, according to the several media outlets, including Politico and Austria's Courier Daily. The Polish government reported earlier that 19 violations was fixated of its airspace by alleged Russian drones on Wednesday, calling the incident unprecedented and requesting an emergency U.S. Security Council meeting. Moscow rejected the accusations of a deliberate attack. saying Warsaw's claim lack evidence and are being amplified by the European Party of War. During the incident, NATO forces reportedly scrambled Dutch F-35 fighter jets along with their Italian surveillance plane and the German Patriot air defense systems to track and intercept the drones. Politico reported. Courier, on the other hand, said the drones costing just over $11,000 were shot down with their air-to-air missiles worth $400,000 each. Their newspaper is also lamented that only 7 out of 19 drones were intercepted, although Polish authorities stated that only 3 or 4 drones actually were down, while the rest did not pose a threat. But how they know? They struggled to intercept drones, by the way. They just struggled. They did not know what to do. And the response of NATO on this drone incident was pure panic. They just did not really know what to do with it, right? And Western media is correct, while acknowledging that NATO is definitely vulnerable for potential, influence by whatever aerial means being drone or missiles or whatever. If NATO is unable to intercept these drones that are flying 200-300 kilometers an hour with that speed, what they're gonna do with their hypersonic, let's say, Russian missiles, if it comes to it? What they gonna do with their hypersonic and even subsonic, let's say, Russian missiles? Anyways, let's continue. As I said, I don't know how long this notebook will last on its batteries, and unfortunately, electricity is not yet been on. Hopefully, this emergency works. We will finish today, and there are going to be no such issues from now on. Meanwhile, dear friends, Special envoy of US in Ukraine, Kat Kellogg, which is also a tremendously Russophobic element, went to not just criticize Russia, but to play these games that, well, Russia is not really capable force, and he tried to amplify NATO's power. Let me give you some video, by the way, you share your take, what you think about this stuff that Kellogg is talking about.
They talk a big game, but I don't think they're and I think right now, the way the Europeans are standing up, I would be very, very worried if I was a Putin. Just a comment. He sometimes rattles his nuclear trigger chain by saying, "Well, we're a nuclear power." I'd remind him, U.S. is too, but so's Britain, so's France, and I said, just throw it right back at him, and I think you're seeing that with the Europeans standing up right now. It's the Europeans' war because
clearly, it seems like Kellogg is encouraging, maybe under orders of the Trump administration, he is clearly encouraging European states to go ahead with next phase of escalation. That's how I'm interpreting his statement there.
Europeans' backyard, and they see it, but it's one of those where we had a discussion recently in the Oval where, it goes back to what I said earlier about I'm sorry to the ladies in here, right? But they were talking about the primacy of the Russian military and how they were, pretty good. And I said to the people in the room, we'd kick their ass, and I mean by that is like,
you see, this psycho thinks that they are in a position to talk like that. And whoever is actually informed about developments on the line of contact, about capabilities of the Russian armed forces, probably are laughing. And this kind of stance on the part of Western so-called elites is tremendously dangerous, because if they actually believe that they can achieve strategical defeat of Russia, then they will, of course, go ahead with the next phase of escalation, and they will think they can do it without consequences. This is tremendously dangerous. On one hand, it is laughable. Yes, I mean, one may say Kellogg has no freaking idea what's going on. But on the other hand, people like him, and there are a lot of them, isn't it, among Western elites, vast majority, they are tremendously dangerous, because being this misled, this ill-informed, means that they will actually go ahead with the next phase of escalation. And that is, I cannot explain how dangerous that is.
Don't take their statements at face value. They're not as good as Putin says they are. And that I give great credit to the Ukrainian military, because they've taken them down a couple of notches. And so I don't think anybody...
And these people, dear friends, don't understand that this war that West provoked is a civil war. That's how many of us see this war, right? And the Kiev regime forces put up good fight because they are Russians, and Russians know how to fight. NATO, it's a NATO war against Russia. NATO is sending money, NATO is sending weapons, and NATO is sacrificing best military they can come up with, which is Russians, by the way, that happen to live in this former Soviet Republic that was created by Bolsheviks, Ukraine. If anybody thinks that NATO troops, actual NATO troops, would do any better on the battlefield, I have Mount Everest to solve to that person. If NATO troops were deployed instead of Ukrainians that are Russians, right, then this war could be finished a long time ago. Long time ago, by the way, because I'm quite sure NATO troops would not be able to sustain this conflict for this long. This is a civil war inside the Russian world. It's a Russian people, and I don't mean ethnically Russians necessarily, not just ethnically Russians, but Russians by mindset, Russians that, Russian speakers and people that see themselves as a part of a Russian world, right? Being Russian means not necessarily means you are ethnically Russian. We all understand that, isn't it? So this is a NATO's war against Russia. They're using their weapons, whatever they can, to bring in, and the best forces that potentially they could come up with, which is unfortunately brainwashed part of a Russian world, right? And if he thinks, well, if Ukrainians did give this good fight, then our troops can do better. No, man, your troops will, half of your troops will have a freaking heart attack in the first 24 hours if they will end up in this high-intensity conflict, because they have never, ever seen anything like that. And their NATO troops don't even have officers that have any experience of this high-intensity conflict. So what Kellogg is talking about here?
He should be afraid of the Russian military. It's a nuclear power. Check that block. I got that. But they don't have. I don't believe they've got the capacity that they had that they can march towards Berlin or anywhere else.
This is dangerous, by the way. He's talking about a lot of crap there. We all understand that. But this attitude is tremendously dangerous. That is clearly dominating among Western elites. This is just too freaking dangerous, because this cycle is going to go ahead with next phase of escalation and trigger Russian retaliatory strikes. And when Russia retaliates, well, that's going to be something extraordinary. And clearly we all see, isn't it, that Moscow is trying to do whatever it takes to avoid this retaliation on hostiles. But I guess people like Kellogg and others that are dominating narratives in the West, they're going to trigger Moscow one day to go ahead with the retaliation. And that's going to be not just shocking, but that will be a great wake-up call for everybody in the West that still thinks that somehow they are superior to us just because they want to or they've been told to. No, they are not superior to anybody. That's it. But this is extremely crazy. This is extremely crazy and dangerous what Kellogg is talking about there. Let me give you more news, dear friends. And well, former Russian president and current deputy chairman of the Security Council, Dmitry Medvedev, responded to all the latest developments, all the latest statements, claims from the West. And well, let me give you, dear friends, some details of response from Medvedev. I will read, if I may, his post. So there is several points in his statement. First, the entire Estonian Minister of Defense came to Kiev, threatening us. Well, now hold on. The smaller the country, there are more careless and foolish their leaders are. Their powerful European initiative, Eastern Guard, and their Dmitry Medvedev is ironic there, of course, also amused me. This seems to be all that remains of their coalition of willing. But seriously, the implementation of their provocative idea by the Kiev and other fools to create a no-fly zone over Ukraine, and as I said, Poland is also pushing for this idea, and the possibility for NATO countries to shut down our drones will mean only one thing: NATO's war with Russia. Things must be called by their proper names, Medvedev is saying. Also, a second point in his statement regarding the theft of Russian property in the form of a loan to Ukraine secured by Russian assets, an idea nurtured by various freaks from Brussels and EU countries. Well, Washington is also pushing on that. Washington is actually demanding for quite a while now. Even during the Biden's administration, Washington was also demanding from Brussels to steal Russian assets, right? To confiscate these frozen assets. It's not just European so-called elites. If this happens, Russia will pursue the state of the European Union, as well as their Euro degenerates from Brussels, and there are certain EU countries who try to seize our property until the end of time by all possible means without extinguishing claims against them by statute of limitations or acquisitive prescription, and also without limitation for a criminal prosecution for international crimes in all possible international and national courts, he said. And in some cases, even extrajudiciary, which is a very interesting statement to say. That means that something might happen to some elements from Western so-called elites if they will go ahead and steal Russian assets. Just a warning that things happened. Things happened. Sir, dear friends, Austrian Foreign Minister Peter Meini-Reisinger recalled the former glory of the late empire and Vienna's status in the world diplomacy almost 2 months after saying they need to join NATO. She suddenly stated that negotiations between Russia and Ukraine should take place in Austria, as it is a neutral country that should not join their alliance. She is allegedly categorically against this accession after 2 months. It seems Medvedev is saying the effect of Austrian schnapps has worn off. Peter sobered up and got very scared. Foreign Minister of Austria. History must be taught in a school. Medvedev is finalizing, and he was also ironic here, of course. But in every humor, in every irony, there is a serious part of the truth, isn't it? And if you if you don't know the difference, if some members of our team do not know, schnapps is a German, Austrian drink, right? It's not vodka, but it's a stronger, relatively strong drink. I have tasted that schnapps a couple of times in my life. I did not like it, but Germans do and Austrians do. So okay, so that's when it comes to statements of Medvedev. I think these statements of Medvedev should be taken seriously. By the way, because first of all, he's a former president. Secondly, he is a current deputy chairman of the Security Council, and the rumors are that Medvedev is saying openly stuff that Putin might think but avoid to declare publicly, right? Because Putin is a current president, so he just he has different level of responsibilities, obviously. So that might be true also. So that's why I think all the warnings that are coming from Medvedev should be taken seriously, even if we think that he is a good troll, and he can troll, by the way. That's also true. Nevertheless, we should pay some attention. Not just we, by the way, but Western so-called elites, most importantly. Anyways, dear friends, let me continue with some more news, and you might be surprised to hear this if you missed the news on the matter. But former German foreign minister, genius of our times, absolute genius of our times, and I'm being ironic also, Annalena Baerbock is a UN official now. And not just any official, but high-ranking official. And as a UN official, Baerbock spoke about the possibility of UN peacekeeping mission in Ukraine. Let me give you some details on that. If peace agreements are reached in Ukraine, the emergence of a UN peacekeeping mission could become a key instrument for ensuring stability and compliance with the agreements, according to UN General Assembly President Annalena Baerbock. Baerbock spoke about this possible need for UN mission in Ukraine after peace agreements have been reached. Bild reports. Baerbock is talking about possible UN mission after some settlement will be reached. If settlement will be reached, she noted, and this is quote, if the majority of the member states say that peacekeepers are needed for this, then peace can be ensured. Baerbock emphasized that the main thing is to first achieve the fact of the negotiations and corresponding agreements. According to Baerbock, such a mission are especially in demand today, not only on the European continent, but also in the world as a whole. She noted that in a just peace in Ukraine is possible only on the basis of the UN Charter, which is recorded in a number of General Assembly resolutions adopted since the beginning of the conflict. And the only question I have, why this genius of our times was appointed as a president of UN General Assembly? Why? Is if UN's reputation is not already destroyed and they needed some more destruction, they are appointing this individual to represent General Assembly, to represent UN. I mean, this is, I don't know, man. These people are sick, I'm telling you. UN should be dissolved completely because it's a freaking joke, man. It's a freaking joke. How anybody can take UN seriously when they are appointing people like Annalena Baerbock as a high-ranking official, and also considering to appoint current head of IAEA, Rafael Grossi, and some other horrendous elements from the collective West as a potential replacement of current Secretary General of the UN. This is joke, man. This is sick joke, I'm telling you. But anyways, when it comes to topic of possibility that UN peacekeepers may be deployed one day on a line of contact, well, theoretically that might happen. But that line of contact will be between Western Ukraine and the rest of the Ukraine. not on the Dnieper River, not elsewhere on historical Russian land, but between Western Ukraine and the rest of the territory. That's it. No UN or any other so-called peacekeepers gonna be deployed there outside of Western Ukraine. That's for sure. My take on the situation, but nevertheless, idea itself is something that Russia probably will work with. Wow, electricity is back. Okay, that's good. What? Yes, I will wait for a little while until Wi-Fi will start work router, and I will switch to Wi-Fi because I'm now on the internet from the phone, and I'm not sure if if that internet is enough. But anyways, dear friends, let me continue with some more news now. And I want to remind you that Zapad 2025 exercises of Russian forces, Belarusian forces, and also military representatives of CSTO countries and Shanghai Cooperation, some of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization members continues, and it started on the 12th of September and will end tomorrow. Yesterday, as I reported in yesterday's update, Northern Fleet of the Russian Federation conducted their live launches of their Zircon hypersonic missiles. And well, if NATO is struggling to intercept some freaking decoy drones that are flying with the speed of about, like, I don't know, 200, 300 kilometers an hour, what they gonna do at best? What they gonna do with the, if they will actually escalate with the next phase with Russia and provoke Russian response, then what they gonna do with the Zircon hypersonic missiles? What they gonna do with their Oreshnik hypersonic missile systems? Or what they gonna do with other Russian systems that are, actually tremendously more capable, let's say, than any drones that collective West has seen? What they gonna do? I don't know. And also, if you are interested, dear friends, if there is any observers on this Zapad 2025 exercises that is taking place in Russia and Belarus, well, they are representatives of other countries. This morning I shared on my Telegram and Twitter X page this report, for example, that representatives of the 23 countries, including 3 NATO members, yes, 3 NATO members, United States, Turkey, and Hungary, are observing the Zapad 2025 exercises. The Belarusian Defense Ministry reported, which is quite interesting. Okay, it's a tradition. Usually when there is large-scale exercises, countries are inviting observers, and Russia and Belarus did the same. Although I'm not that happy that US was allowed, any representative from US or Turkey was allowed to be there as an observer, because both countries are enemies of Russia, hostiles, right? And until this changes, I don't think their militaries should be allowed anywhere near Russian or Belarusian militaries to learn anything about us, right? But anyways, that's what a report is. TASS news agency is also reporting that on the matter of Europe being cornered, well, they are not just cornered, but terrified. European elites, that is, and they are big time disappointed by Trump's muted response on incident with Poland. I reported about it earlier, but when it comes to Trump, he don't cares about which European country is or leadership of which European country is upset with him or not. Trump considers European sanctions against Russia not tough enough. That's his response. That he thinks it's a Europe that is not fully engaged in this war against Russia, in this proxy war, on the level that they demand from US. And we have this report from TASS News Agency. US President Donald Trump told White House press pool reporters in Bedminster, New Jersey, that European sanctions against Russia are too weak. I mean, really, they impose thousands of sanctions. They are about to impose, today they might actually make it public, information about 19th package of sanctions. And Trump says those sanctions are too weak. Okay, that's interesting. The sanctions that they are, Europeans putting on Russia are not tough enough, and I am willing to do sanctions, but they are going to have to toughen up their sanctions with what I am doing. The US leader said, Trump added that no major sanctions should be expected from the US as long as Europe continues to buy oil from Russia. Basically, he reiterated his earlier statements that he published on his Truth Social. And I reported about it, that Trump sort of issued their Ukraine conflict ultimatum to all NATO members while demanding to impose more sanctions on Russia, and not just on Russia, but also on trade partners of Russia, China, India, Brazil, and it's not just Trump, but leading figures when it comes to anti-Russian hysteria in Washington are Lindsey Graham and Dick Blumenthal, senators, so-called Democrat and Republican senators in US. And I reported yesterday about new initiative of what is the name of this freak man? Lindsey Graham, yes, a new initiative of Lindsey Graham, how to sanction Russia, how to sanction China, India, and others. They want a new package of sanctions against us to be tied with their federal government funding bill, so that this way these sanctions will pass easier. But at the same time, I did saw some reports from in Western media that it is highly unlikely that Washington or White House will actually go ahead with this new initiative of Lindsey Graham. First of all, because they don't want Lindsey Graham to dictate what to do, when, and how. White House wants to maintain initiative on the issue, and nevertheless, very same Lindsey Graham was called. He is always on the TV, isn't it? Do these people ever work and do something good for American public? How come that they are always on TV, these officials? Man? Here in Russia, by the way, officials rarely have any screen time. And honestly, I don't watch TV, but I monitor channels on internet, isn't it? That there is always some short clips from this talk show, that talk show, and very rarely high-ranking officials, Russian officials, are finding time to get to that talk show. But in US, somehow, senators, congressmen, ministers, their deputies of their deputies, everybody is constantly on all sorts of talk shows. How come, man? Do these people ever work? And they have quite a good salaries, I guess. And for what? To appear on freaking talk shows? Unbelievable. Let me give you statements of Graham about all the sanctions and so on. And he was pressed actually by so-called journalists there on a matter of his earlier bill, in which he was demanding some 500% tariffs to be imposed on India and China. He was reminded about it and pressed is he's going to go forward with that bill that had some 85 support of 85 senators in upper house, and he said yes. So let's see, maybe US will sanction China and India with 500% tariffs. Anything is possible, but that would be tremendously wild stuff to do, of course. And let me give you this video of Graham, dear friends.
And President Trump to punish Putin's customers. Putin has been sanctioned, literally his economy has been sanctioned every way it can be sanctioned. President Trump approaches to go after China and India. President Trump put a 25% tariff on every Indian product coming into America because they buy cheap Russian oil. He is now going after China. He posted yesterday to our European allies, mostly NATO allies, that he expects them to follow his lead by imposing tariffs on China for 50 to 100%, up to 100% on products coming into Europe. It is now time for Europe to get behind the Trump approach. The Europeans say they love the Graham bill. Graham Blumenthal bill is 85 co-sponsors in the Senate that will allow President Trump to tariff people who buy cheap Russian oil and for their benefit, like China, India, Brazil. It is now time for the Europeans to follow President Trump's lead and go after China and India. China and India will change their practices toward Putin. This war would end.
All right. Well, Senator, you introduced that sanctions bill against Russia 6 months ago.
Yeah.
You have 85 people on board. Why issue an ultimatum to Europe and not Putin? Why not move forward with that bill now? And are you planning to?
Putin doesn't care about sanctions. No sanctions have worked here. He evades sanctions. He lives well.
Are you going to push your bill forward, though? Are you going to get your bill on?
Yeah, absolutely.
You see, at one point, he actually was forced to admit that, well, Putin, and by Putin he means Russia, I guess, don't care about sanctions. And on that, he is correct, by the way. Over 20, according to some reports, over 30,000 sanctions were imposed on Russia. And what they achieve with this, what European elites or American elites achieve with their sanctions being imposed on Russia, so many sanctions, they harm their own economies much more than they harm Russia. No one here going to say, dear friends, that these sanctions did not have no effect whatsoever. Of course they do. Sanctions are never something to experience, to love to experience. No, of course they had some effect. But clearly Russian government is doing something right, because economy, instead of crashing that Western elites were hoping for, economy continues to grow. So that is quite telling, isn't it? But on the other hand, when it comes to more sanctions and there are more tariffs, you see what Graham is saying. Well, Russia don't care, Putin don't care about sanctions, and that's why they want now to sanction Russian partners. But India already make it stand clear, isn't it? They said, bring it on. We're not going to bow down to nobody. And you think China will bow down to Washington? Of course not. Of course not. But these people are tremendously dangerous. They are so delusional, dear friends. These are so delusional elements that they might destroy this world with their craziness, because they believe they are still dominant power in this world. They can dictate to everybody what to do, when, how. And while believing this nonsense, they might actually go ahead with their levels of escalation that might actually trigger countries worldwide, Russia, China, India, and many others, to retaliate in kind, right? And eventually, world might end up in some very dark place. World is already is in big trouble because of the Western so-called elites, and things gonna get even worse. Anyways, dear friends, let me now, for a second, transfer to Wi-Fi internet, so that speed will be much. So I'm back. Hopefully, workers did finish whatever they were doing with their electricity. They are turning out entire block, by the way. There is one building nearby, and I don't know what kind of emergency they had, but this is second time in the last couple of days this emergency brigade was called in to deal with their freaking electricity, and whole block is turned off until they are working in that building. But things happened yet again. Things happened, and so yes. Before I continue, dear friends, let me also share with some other topics. Let me also give you a response from China. I already said that India made very clear where it stands, right? Indian leadership. They said they're not going to bow down to nobody. And we have a response from Chinese Foreign Ministry. Let me read it for you. China will take decisive measures if NATO countries, under pressure from the US, impose tariffs on the purchase of Russian oil, said their official representative of the Chinese Foreign Ministry, Lin Jian. So that's the response. Beijing is saying directly, openly, if you go ahead and do some crazy stuff, we're gonna retaliate. And this is a warning that European elite should take seriously, or NATO member states in general. Will they take it seriously? Hard to tell, dear friends. But as I said, sanctions are always. I think these sanctions are unilateral sanctions policies that Western world adopted is a crime committed against humanity. They have no legal basis for that to act this way unilaterally without any international actual support. And when I say international, I mean whole world, not just Western world, which is only like 20% of the rest of the whole of humanity, right? And on the matter of sanctions, RT reported shared this information, which is based on research of Lancet Global Health. Lancet is, of course, a well-respected medical magazine in the Western medical magazine, rather. And information is that unilateral Western sanctions caused 38 million deaths since the 1970s, according to Lancet. 38 million people, dear friends, died directly and indirectly died because of their impact, direct and indirect impact of their Western sanctions since the 1970s. 38 million people were killed basically by the West in last 50 years of this sanctions warfare that they are waging. Did you know about it? And Lancet, yet again, Lancet is a Western magazine, by the way. No one can say that it's Chinese propaganda or Russian propaganda or India's propaganda. It's a Western, well-respected, actually, medical magazine. Average annual death toll ranges due to Western sanctions, unilateral, illegal Western sanctions, ranges from 400,000 to 1 million every single year. This is genocide. This is genocide of the humanity. And Lancet is calling this system to be replaced because it's intolerable. And everyone, I mean, most of the world will agree with that, but not the Western world. Western world is all about this attitude that they are main force, dominant force. They are, you know what kind of attitude Western elites had there for last 3 to 5 centuries. In Russian, there is a term like "белые господа." That's the attitude. Whiter masters. That's how they see themselves. White masters. They are freaking racist, isn't it? Western elites, they are freaking racist. And that's the attitude that they had worldwide while colonizing whole world. That white masters came, and they still have that mentality. that them, those white masters, have to dictate everybody what to do, how, when, and why. And if not, then, well, take a sanction. And they already killed, just in the last 50 years, 38 million people. What about that? You know? And they try to talk with the rest of the humanity from position of morality. Can you imagine that? I mean, how it's crazy. It's just crazy, man. It's just crazy what's happening. They killed 38 million people and continue to do so. Meanwhile, as I reported yesterday, the US is calling G7 countries to develop mechanism to seize Russian frozen assets, to then use these frozen assets to enrich themselves, basically, while justifying this stealing with a forever topic of assisting Kiev regime, right? And we had a response from Russian side about this, but one of the response that Western media is not talking about is that Russia and China are planning to create a clearinghouse to avoid West. Russian assets are frozen in Europe, for example, in clearinghouses, mainly in the Danish clearinghouses, right? So Russia and China soon will create a clearinghouse which will allow investors from all over the world, not just Russian investors or Chinese investors, but investors in general, to operate without fear that they're going to be punished by Western elites. So this is a very important decision. And on the matter of Russian frozen assets being stolen in the West, I mentioned yesterday, dear friends, that there is a 285 billion of Western direct investments into Russia. Investments are frozen too, although unlike Westerners, unlike Western elites, Russian Federation is not stealing not a single penny, not from frozen assets, not from profits of these investments. It's all safe and secure. And when Russian assets will be returned to Russia, investors will have opportunity to retake control over their assets in Russian Federation, or if Western elites will go ahead and steal Russian assets, confiscate Russian assets, then Moscow can retaliate. Moscow has means to retaliate, right? And Western investors will lose at least 285 billion. Although in these years, of course, these investments were making profits. So in reality, this number is way above 300 billion at this point. Quite sure about it. And dear friends, before I continue, I forget to mention it. Before I continue, let me notice that this media project of mine, is completely subscriber funded, exists only as long as I have your support, community support. And if you like my work, if you want to help me to maintain this project, please consider to support. You can do it through several means. You can donate to the project from PayPal platform or Boosty platforms. You can subscribe to my Patreon page, where I have extra content, or Patreon only content, quite regularly. Also, if you for whatever reason don't like Patreon platform, you can subscribe to my channel on Boosty. I'm publishing same videos on both channels there, on Patreon and Boosty. Links are on this video in the description box and in the pinned comment. There is also a crypto option to support, but I'm not quite sure that crypto service is still working, because for quite a few months there was not single donation through crypto. Maybe it does not work really. I have to check. But it used to work. There was such an option at least. And during the live streams, like now, you can use the super chat feature on my Rumble channel to send send super chat, and at the same time to donate to the project. And simultaneously, you can also become or you can become premium subscriber on Rumble, where my channel is monetized. All the links are in this video in the description box and in the pinned comment. And many thanks to everybody who supported and continues to support. Thank you all, dear friends. And right now I see a comment from Random Wolf. Levan, you need the short clips. I will today. Unfortunately, there was technical issues due to electricity. I don't know. I have to check this video after live stream, and I'll try to make a couple of short clips. But I agree with you. I want to resume publishing short clips from these live streams, so that members of community that cannot watch a full video will take a look at the short clips, right? So it will be more convenient, hopefully. And some of the short clips might actually manage to bypass algorithm barriers and maybe even reach wider audience. This did happen a few times before, so it might work actually. So I will resume. Publishing short clips. And well, yes, that's been said, dear friends. Let's continue with some more news. And what is the next? RT is reporting that Netanyahu, Prime Minister of Israel, continues to justify recent attack on Qatar when Israeli Air Force targeted Hamas negotiations in Doha, capital of Qatar. Netanyahu is stating that killing the Hamas leaders in Qatar would clear the way to ending the Gaza conflict and the return of Israeli hostages. No matter how much or whichever way Netanyahu gonna try to justify this attack, it cannot be justified. These people were negotiators. Israel agreed to negotiate with them, and the negotiators are not targeted. It's just it is what it is. Negotiators are not targeted. You don't weaponize diplomacy. You weaponize diplomacy, you are losing credibility. If there was anything left from that credibility. And you think why world is struggling to trust collective West? Because they weaponized diplomacy. And it is becoming impossible, literally impossible, to trust anything that comes out from the West. And Israel is definitely in the same position. Israel is a part of the collective West, isn't it, after all? So, of course, they are behaving with approval and support of the rest of the collective West. Yes, we have heard some strong statements time to time from European countries, for example, in regards to actions of the Israel, inhuman actions of the Israel. Recently, for example, Spanish Prime Minister went to make quite strong statements in regards to Israeli leadership's actions. But nothing is done by collective West countries that actually have some leverage over the Israel. Nothing actual and factual has been done to stop this country committing war crimes against humanity and crimes against humanity in general on daily basis. So West has no credibility whatsoever, by the way, at this point. Probably majority of our community will agree with me. I mean, even if you are living in the West, you see, isn't it, how your elites are behaving. You see that diplomacy actually has been weaponized, and I think you would struggle to trust them. So if you are struggling to trust your own leadership, political elites, so-called, then what about us, rest of the world? Of course, we cannot trust them, right? And therefore, no matter when and with what justifications they're going to come up with, it would not work. It would not work. And I mean, Israeli leadership is digging a grave for Israel. Again, they maybe not understand this, but I think they are digging grave for Israel, because only for so long they can commit crimes against humanity with impunity. time will come when the world will say, not just a region of the Middle East, but whole world will actually get together and will say, no more, not in my watch, or not on my watch, right? And there some actions will be taken. But meanwhile, Qatari prime minister, Qatari leadership basically is demonstrating on daily basis how upset they are due to Israeli strike, but no one is taking seriously their strong statements. Qatar, Saudi Arabia, UAE, all the others, by the way, Bahrain, Kuwait, all the others, leadership of theirs, the so-called royal families that were established by British elites, by the way, British aristocracy, all of them served quite well their masters, their white masters from UK, and continue to do so. And unfortunately continue to do so. They are servants, these so-called royal families are servants of the British aristocracy, first and foremost. And then, of course, they are under influence of US and Israel even, and maybe some others, right? And therefore, no one is taking seriously whatever strong statements they're going to come up with. Your capital was targeted. Your security service officers were killed, right, and wounded. Diplomatic mission from Hamas was targeted. Some were killed there, some survived. Israel committed act of war. And what Qatar is doing, making statements, Qatari leadership, making some statements. I mean, really? Really? Okay, continue. But I mean, if anyone had any respect towards the so-called royal families in the Middle East, in the Gulf, Persian Gulf, probably lost any respect towards these people, and they cannot be respected. And first and foremost, I think people of these countries, residents of these countries, are sick and tired of these elements being formally at least in charge there. And maybe that's the reason why Qatari prime minister Qatari leadership is making statements, strong statements in regards to Israeli strike. Maybe that's why Saudi Arabia's royal family and officials are making some strong statements, UAE and others. They are afraid of rebellion. That's all, man. They are afraid of rebellion among the citizens of their countries. And then they're not going to do nothing. They're not going to do nothing, by the way. At least for quite a while, because we don't really have any indicators that they are capable of doing anything to protect their fellow citizens and their fellow Arabs, for example, or to protect peace in the Middle East. They are cowards, by the way. They are cowards. And well, I will say same about Egypt, by the way, also run by Western and Israeli sluts, historically speaking, especially after Soviet Union collapse. By the way, Egypt did become a proxy of West, and only strong statements. All we hear from Egypt, it's some strong statements, nothing else. And when it comes to statements, we have this report that as Qatar hosts Arab Summit for a collective action on Israel, Egypt renews call for United Arab Military Alliance to be created. This is not happening. I shared yesterday a report that Iranian general also called some collective defense treaty to be created in the Middle East, and I said it would not work. West will never ever allow this to happen. And all these statements from Arab countries, leadership of Arab countries, is just an attempt to manipulate with their public opinion in their own countries, to keep people misled and under control. That's all. No one should expect that any of these countries will do anything, man. They've been run by Israeli sluts. What they gonna do? What they gonna do? You tell me. Nothing. All right. So, anyways, I don't even want to talk about Middle East. By the way, it's a freaking shame what is going on there. Shame on humanity, man. And I'm trying hard, by the way, not to use some strong language, as I do quite often, especially when I'm talking about Middle East and what Israel does, man. These freaking fascist psychos, man. Anyways, let's continue. And Trump was asked about potential strikes on Venezuela, and he responded that, well, we will see strikes on. We will see what is going to happen. He did not confirm and that they're gonna be some strikes, but did not even also reject an idea. Let me give you some shorter video on that, dear friends. I believe I have a video of Trump's statement. I have two videos, actually. No.
Just on that, do you think you will target strikes on mainland Venezuela?
Oh, we'll see what happens. Look, Venezuela is sending us their gang members, their drug dealers, and drugs. It's not acceptable.
So, what you gonna make of this statement? Let's watch this once again.
You will target strikes on mainland Venezuela?
Oh, we'll see what happens. Look, Venezuela is sending us their gang members, their drug dealers, and drugs. It's not acceptable.
We will see what happens. I mean, what kind of response is that? He did not reject the idea of direct strikes, and he didn't confirm either that they're gonna be strikes. Of course, they're gonna be strikes. By the way, why they are building up the strike force off coast of Venezuela for naval parade to take place? No, they are going to conduct or attempt decapitation strike on Venezuela and to do regime change. I mean, we all understand this. And it has nothing to do with this topic of drugs. If Washington was serious about fighting drug trafficking, they can go to Langley straight away. And another video here, dear friends.
Are you going with us, Maggie?
Not with you.
Good.
Just one more on Venezuela. The president of Venezuela called the strike on the boat illegal. Are you concerned that Maduro might escalate something?
No, what's illegal are the drugs that were on the boat and the drugs that are being sent into our country, and the fact that 300 million people died last year from drugs. That's what's illegal.
Do you think he's not telling the truth when he's...
You see what he said? Some 300 million people died last year from drugs. He has no freaking idea what he's talking about, dear friends. Trump just makes up stories, right? Literally on the spot. Probably he just makes up stories. He says some crazy stuff, and then whole world, because he's a president of US, then whole world is thinking, what the hell he just said there? About 300 million people died from Venezuelan drugs. What is he talking about? But anyways, man, Venezuela is the richest country in the world when it comes to oil reserves, right? Discovered oil reserves. And that's main reason why US wants to recolonize Venezuela. That's it. If it was about drugs, actually, if White House was actually truly fighting war against drug cartels, I would support that 100%. But they are using topic to justify attack on yet another country, and that is unacceptable. Because if they want to target drug traffickers, then go to Langley. You have CIA right there, not far away from White House. Go there and you will find all the big bosses in this field. of drug trafficking, weapons trafficking, human trafficking, and so on. What Venezuela? Go to Langley. But they are just made, coming up with some stories to justify yet another war, and that's about it. And it's only a matter of time. They're gonna go with their attempt to decapitate regime in Venezuela. I have no doubts about it, and they might succeed with this. They might succeed with removing, with killing leadership of Venezuela, political and military leadership. And they might even implement some proxy regime of Guaido or whomever. US is already recognizing Guaido and Collective West as a legit president of Venezuela, right? So they might try to put that person in charge. But if Venezuelan people, as I said many times before, if people of Venezuela will refuse their country to be recolonized, and if they will fight, US not going to be able to control Venezuela. No. And I don't think US militaries are in a position to actually win the fight against Venezuelan people on the ground. They can bomb Venezuela with bombs, missiles, drones, and so on. But if it comes to ground operation, and if people of Venezuela will fight, I don't think US militaries are capable of defeating them. I really don't. And Venezuela might turn into another Vietnam for US. And right now on your screen, your friends, you are seeing a grouping of forces that US, the strike force that US already has off coast of Venezuela. It's early bird plus destroyers with the Tomahawk missiles, also submarines with Tomahawk missiles. F-35s were deployed there. Also, US version of it's a V8, isn't it? Name. Harrier, US version of British Harrier. Vertical takeoff planes also being deployed on the board of one of their large amphibious warship. There are additional vessels, naval vessels, to assist this strike group, and more and more weapons being deployed, more and more weapon systems, right? Strategical bombers have been spotted in the area. Helicopters being deployed there. So yes, they are getting ready. US is getting ready to take our military action. It's only a matter of time, and they will go ahead with this operation. And yet again, it might turn out second Vietnam for US. A couple of more news, dear friends. RIA Novosti is reporting that Trump threatens to declare state of emergency in the US. So he has a war inside the country too. He is about to start a new war for US against Venezuela, but same time he is engaged in a sort of a war inside the US. And some very strange news is coming, by the way, from US. For example, Donald Trump has threatened to declare national emergency following Washington Mayor Muriel Bowser's statement that the Capitol Police will not cooperate with the US Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, on illegal immigration issues. Is it even possible that police will not cooperate with their other state institution? What's going on in US, man? What kind of system do you have? Guys, this is not normal. Police is a state institution. It's not private company of a mayor of any city or any town or village. What the hell is wrong with this whole situation there? Who the hell is mayor of Washington to say that police will not cooperate with their other state institution? I mean, despite what is your take on ICE itself, you might be against it completely, but who the hell is mayor of city to say state institution would not cooperate with their other state institution? This is wrong, man. This is, this is treason. This person, mayor of Washington, is committing treason, by the way. I think. Who gives him this kind of rights? But it's U.S. Internal business. It's up to U.S. citizens. Maybe they are happy with this whole stuff. Okay, right? None of my business for sure. But anyways, let me give you some details on that. Trump wrote on True Social on Monday that under his leadership, the federal government has intervened in the total criminal mess that was Washington, D.C., transforming D.C. from one of the most dangerous and murder-ridden cities in the U.S. and even the world to one of the safest. In just a few weeks, he said there was virtually no crime there for the first time in decades. It was great to watch, but now under pressure from the radical left Democrats, Mayor Muriel Bowser, who has led this brutal criminal takeover of our capital for years, has informed the federal government that their Metropolitan Police Department will no longer cooperate with ICE in removing and resettling dangerous illegal aliens. If I had allowed this to happen, crime would have quickly returned to the people and their businesses of Washington, D.C. Don't worry, I am with you, and I will not let this happen. I will declare a national emergency and federalize if necessary, Trump added. So it's a civil war inside the U.S. political system, isn't it? And inside the U.S. political class. These left Democrats and Republicans, they might actually trigger civil war among the people, not just among their institutions that we clearly have seen already, but among people too. And I don't think U.S. will survive civil war again. It did survive once, but I don't think U.S. as a state, as a country, will survive another civil war. So all of them should be careful. All of them should be careful. They are playing with lives of millions and millions of people, and I mean, this is crazy. This is not acceptable, man. Who the hell is I'm quite critical of Trump whenever he says or does something that I find it extreme, right, and unhelpful to the escalator between Washington and Moscow. But he is a U.S. president, first of all, and I mean, yet again, who the hell is a mayor of any city to say, or who the hell is any official to say that this or that state institution will not cooperate with another one? This is wrong on so many levels, by the way. I don't know. Can you imagine any mayor here in Russia saying that, well, police of my city will not cooperate with their FSB, for example? In one freaking hour, that person will be in custody, and probably his deputies too, if they have the same freaking anti-state ideas or extreme ideas. One hour max, maybe not even 1 hour. That's how you should deal with these freaking crazies, man. Personal take yet again. Here in Russia we have a different system. In US there is different system. They call it a freedom. I don't think that is a freedom. When mayor says my institution, my police of the city will not cooperate with their other institution. This is not a freedom. This is madness. And as one say goes, only truly free people are mad people, insane people. That's the only ones that are actually completely free, because they don't care literally about nothing. Correct? And seems like that's the ideal, that's the direction that US is heading. Complete freaking madness. If they call this nonsense of freedom. It's crazy. RIA Novosti is reporting that, Russia has the lowest unemployment rate among G20 countries, which is good to know. The lowest unemployment in the Big 20 at the end of the second quarter was in Russia, while it grew the most in Mexico, according to RIA Novosti's analysis of the data from National Statistics Services. The share of unemployment population in Russia in June was a record low of 2.2%, down 0.1 percentage point from March. This was the lowest level among all the world's largest economies. Unemployment was slightly higher in Japan, 2.5%, where it has remained for a second quarter in a row. In South Korea, the rate has fallen over 3 months to 2.6% from 2.9% in March. At the same time, unemployment in Mexico has grown by the largest 0.5 percentage point among all G20 countries over 3 months, reaching 2.7%, which is still low, by the way. I mean, 2.7% is nothing. You can say there is no unemployment. The only country where the unemployment rate reached double digits, unfortunately, is South Africa, BRICS member states. That's disappointing, of course. All through, the situation continued to worsen over the quarter. For the second quarter in a row, their indicator has been growing, reaching 33.2% in June from 32.9% in March. I mean, this is very bad, man. I didn't know that in South Africa unemployment was this big. I mean, 32, 33%. Oh, this is bad, very bad. Of course, hopefully, South African economy will do better with help of BRICS included, and in a couple of years' time, unemployment will drop below 10%. Hopefully. Apart from Mexico and South Africa, Turkey showed their strongest increase in unemployment in the second quarter, up 0.4 percentage point to 8.4%, which is quite high. Not a catastrophe, of course, but 8-point unemployment is high. At the same time, their indicator fell significantly in India by 2.3 percentage points and Brazil by 1.2 percentage points, according to statistics. And so, dear friends, this is going to be last news for today's first news segment, first live stream. Hopefully, you did find it informative and useful. Hopefully, I did share information that you might not hear otherwise anywhere else on any other channel, and also hopefully my commentary was interesting too. And if so, dear friends, please like the video if you have not yet, and leave some commentary. This might help to reach wider audience. And as I said, after live stream I will check the video, and if despite the technical issues I can make some shorter videos, I will do it, and I will publish short videos. And if you come across those short videos and if you have like 10 seconds to spare, please open that video and click that like button there. It might help to reach a wider audience. And so yes, this is it for a news segment, dear friends. 1 hour and 39 minutes, relatively long one, but hopefully it was informative enough. And before I join community chat, dear friends, let me once again thank Patrick for a $50 donation yesterday after a live stream late in the day. Yesterday was a fundraising stream, dear friends, as you know. And Patrick, member of our community through PayPal, donated their $50. Thank you very much, Patrick, for a generous donation. Also, let me thank dear friends, as Scooby, I can share image. Oh, I don't have image from Patreon, but as Scooby subscribed to my Patreon page yesterday, and become a Patreon of this project. Thank you very much for this support and attention. Hopefully more members of our bigger community on YouTube and Rumble will join our tiny communities on Patreon and Boosty. That will be also a great support, of course. And also, dear friends, yesterday there was a donation after stream. After stream, there was donation on Boosty from Spark Y. Thank you very much, Spark Y, for 401 ruble donation, which is about $6, $7 around. And comment from Spark Y is grateful for your insights. Stay strong, prevail. Thank you very much for your support and attention. Thank you. And yes, that's when it comes to yesterday's support. Today there was no super chat, no donations during the stream. I guess maybe during the day. So therefore, dear friends, I will just join community chat now and scroll through chat. If I see any questions or the topics that are directed to me, I will react on it. I see comment from Nikos. Hi, Levan. As you noted, I'm very busy these days trying to figure out stuff for myself. I try to keep up with your videos. In any case, be well and safe. Glory to Russia. Oh, thank you very much for your kind words, Nikos, and good luck to whatever business you do. Maybe you are planning to come up with a channel or something. Let us know about it. We will subscribe, of course. And dear friends, and I'm saying this to all the members of our community, if you are considering to start making videos, to join creators on alternative media, even though our community is tiny, nevertheless, if you will create channel, just let me know about it and write about it in the comment sections during the streams. I'll definitely highlight, and members of, I don't know how many members of community might subscribe, but some will for sure. So it might be helpful. Of course, our community not as big as on bigger channels, but nevertheless, so if I can help in any way, shape, or form, I will. Thank you, Nikos, for your kind words. Oh, and Michael Kennedy understood straight away what happened. Hello, Michael. Unfortunately, yes, it was a power issue. It's not in our building, Michael. There is a few hundred yards away or meters away from here. There is a building, and I don't know what they did there, but a couple of days ago they called in some electrics to deal with their issue, and probably they fixed it for they do some temporary fixation of the issue a few days ago, and today they continue to do some stuff, and for safety reasons they are turning off entire block. But yes, it was electricity stuff, man. Interesting comment from Shin Lee. NATO does not dare to go to war with Russia, no matter what they say. And I hope you are correct. I hope some adequacy will prevail among NATO leadership or leadership of NATO member states, and they will realize that provoking open full-scale war with Russia is a bad idea, and hopefully they would not dare to go on the next phase of escalation against us. But those are psycho people. They are psychopaths. So therefore, unfortunately, we cannot be sure that they would not escalate. Sorry, dear friends, if I miss your question. I'm just trying. I'm trying to see capital Q, so that I will know that this question or comment is directed to me. I see a question. Bold Eagle is asking, Levan, what do you think about Rishi Sunak joining Goldman Sachs as a senior advisor? Oh, I didn't know about it. Thank you, Bold Eagle, for this information. Well, I mean, Europe is controlled by globalists, right? And main force among globalists is a British aristocracy, and so UK is of course or London, let's say, is of course leading the charge in globalist movement as a leading force. And I'm not at all surprised that former prime minister of UK is joining a globalist financial institution that Goldman Sachs is. So it makes sense that they are moving their puppets. Globalists are moving their puppets around, right, keeping them afloat. Maybe they will use Rishi Sunak sometime in the future again. Maybe they will try to put him in some international organization or something, or maybe they will use him inside UK. But I'm not at all surprised. Globalists do what they always do. They move around these figures as their pawns, isn't it? And keep some of them relevant, so that maybe they will use them later on in one way or another. But I did not know that he was appointed in Goldman Sachs. I guess Rishi Sunak, who is already rich, right? He was a filthy rich even before becoming prime minister. So therefore, I don't think it's about money. I think it's about maintaining the relevance, sort of. Although he was most likely paid too quite well, and going to be paid quite well. I'm so happy, dear friends, to see chat being this active. It's really great when members of our community exchanging opinions, and it's really nice to see. Nidish Kumar is commenting, lost his credibility during the COVID. Levan, you're saying me? I lost my credibility during the COVID, or I was talking about something and some topic, and you commented on that topic. This cannot be addressed to me, because I was never official, by the way, anywhere, right? So I could not lose no credibility due to COVID. So I cannot remember. I don't know on which topic you are commenting this, Nidish. When I was talking about credibility of the Western elites, you mean Western elites lost their credibility during the COVID? Yes, even before that, it was very clear for me personally like since forever, that Western elites just cannot be trusted. That they are weaponizing diplomacy and using diplomacy as a tool to mislead the people. And it's just this become obvious for everybody now. Michael Kennedy is commenting Yemen. Yemen, by the way, launched also drones. I see reports that several Yemeni drones were launched to strike Israel. And I have not seen follow-up stories. Those drones all intercepted, or some of them managed to bypass air defense systems? There was no reports on that, but Yemeni Houthis definitely launched some missiles towards Israel. Nidish Kumar is also asking, Levan, I am all about cracking on illegal immigration, but they are only targeting non-European illegal immigrants. Yes, that's the issue. If true, if they are not going after illegal immigrants from of Indo-European descent, let's say, or Indo-European race, it's a racism then. It's clearly racism then. And of course, there are a lot of illegals from that are Indo-Europeans. So that is the issue. If they are only going after, and I mean, let's be clear here. People from Latin America, from Southern America, from Mexico and other countries, they are Indo-Europeans too. They are, Indo-Europeans are mixed with their local tribes, Indian tribes, and the local tribes have according to science, they are descendants of Mongoloids, right? They are Mongoloids. Indians, by the way, on Americas, both Americas. Original population was the Mongoloids. They moved there from Asia when Bering Strait was frozen, I guess, some, I don't know, 10, 20, 30,000 years ago. God knows when. But nevertheless, mainly, people in South America are Indo-Europeans. But they've been targeted too. So I guess, if maybe some elements in ICE or U.S. leadership actually are basing their policies on skin color. If you are not white enough, they might track you down and send you or check your documents. But if you are white enough, then or if you have white enough skin, then they might leave you alone. That's what you're saying, I guess, and it could be true. Yes, I don't know if they're completely ignoring illegals from European countries, for example, or former Soviet republics, for example. Then it's a racism. It's a racism, and why should any of us be surprised that among Western elites they are racists? Of course they are racists, man. Of course they are. you know. And those racists, you think I'm from Caucasus, right? And this so-called white race that is non-existent, it's a Indo-European race. There is no such a thing as a white race, but explain this to some freaking idiots that think they are separate race because they are white. They have light colored skin. They don't even know why they have skin that like light colored. They don't know science behind it. But okay, let's leave that topic. But those racists, do you think they will consider me to be white? No, they wouldn't. I'm telling you, man. And I am from Caucasus region, and one of the names of Indo-Europeans is a Caucasian race, right? That related directly to Caucasus region, because some scientists still to nowadays are arguing where Indo-Europeans came from. Main direction of, dominant position is that Indo-European race basically was formed in the Middle East, and first civilizations of Indo-Europeans were clearly going back to Middle East with their roots. But there is other groups of scientists that think northern part of Black Sea was the place of where Indo-Europeans originated initially, and northern part of Caucasus region, that is where western edge of Caucasus Mountains, right? And so that's from where I believe this name Caucasian race came from. Although Indo-European is much more correct, because Indo-European, this terminology based on the linguistics, right? And all the people that speak Indo-European languages from India to UK are one race, basically. And DNA tests confirm that. I'm not saying nothing extraordinary. But nevertheless, among Indo-Europeans, some people are so dumb and indoctrinated in some crazy ideas that they think only certain white colored or light colored people are Indo-European race, or as they call it, a white race, and the rest is just they are racists, man. What you gonna do about it? They are racists, and maybe among ICE staff or among whoever is giving them orders, also they are racists, and they are focused only on dark-skinned people, no matter from whichever country. Well, might be the case. Although I know, because I lack full knowledge of the matter, I just have no strong opinion on that. But is it possible that they've been led by racist some ideology? Very much possible. After all, we should don't forget that this racial hatred is a still thing in the US, right? And in the West in general. It's not just the elites are racist, but unfortunately, significant part of societies are racist too. And by the way, not just Indo-Europeans can be racist. Others too. Other races also can do the same stuff against Indo-Europeans, and they do actually, right? It's a wrong impression that is being created that only Indo-Europeans are somehow racist. These ideas are pushed by people that have no freaking idea what race is, isn't it? Because actual racists among Indo-Europeans, they would not consider me to be Indo-European or white, as they call themselves. True, right? But yes, I mean, this stuff is, after all, 100 years ago, by the way, in US, there was a separation on a race base, right? And people could not travel on the same bus, could not go into same pub, same restaurant, same toilet even. I mean, what we are talking about? This is America 100 years ago. I'm not talking about some ancient history, just recently. They were treating other races as poorly as they could, right? It's a shame, but yeah, it's just historically accurate stuff. Nidish, you were talking about Lancet magazine, that they lost credibility during the COVID. Okay, I get that, but nevertheless, they are still major magazine, and now whenever they are coming up with some data, people are listening, people are reading, and data of Lancet about the 38 million people being killed directly or indirectly as a result of consequences of the Western sanctions in just last 50 years. It's horrible, isn't it? And people have to know about this worldwide, including in the Western world, because it's their countries that doing this, right? It's Western countries that are doing this. Yes, Michael Kennedy is also commenting Lancet bond experts who told the truth. I guess you are also talking about this COVID period. And yes, that's a shameful page on their history, for sure. For sure. During the COVID pandemic, so many people, public figures, politicians, or institutions discredited themselves that it's a topic that we can talk about for hours and hours. And yes, Michael Kennedy is correct. Science was weaponized during the COVID, for sure. It was a crime committed against humanity. And I think whoever was behind the whole that operation should be in jail for life. But, who gonna do anything? Whoever is in charge, they were behind all that COVID story, isn't it? And they not just enriched themselves tremendously through all these vaccines and so on, but they did their unprecedented scale of experiment, social in terms of social engineering, when they locked up almost entire world. By the way, there was never ever in human history something like that was done, and global elites conducted this unprecedented testing, right? So on one hand, they enriched themselves tremendously. On the other hand, they had now some data, right, on the topic of locking up whole of humanity and manipulating with whole of humanity through different means, including by weaponized science, as you said, Michael. So it was very important story in human history, and lessons has to be learned. But yet again, if in few years' time they will, in few years' time they will yet again come up with something similar? Are we in a position, I mean ordinary people, to do something about it, to resist? Because I mean, here in Russia, lockdown was a easy one compared to what was going on in the West. But nevertheless, I mean, it was a lockdown too, and I was forced basically by circumstances to take a vaccine shot, because my company where I was working at the time was demanding that if you're going to work, you have to take a shot of that vaccine. And I took Russian vaccine, Sputnik V, and I did not really had much issue with that. I'm not anti-vaxxer or something. I even recommend my mom to take her vaccine. So from our family, only me and my mom were vaccinated. Me because of the work, and my mom because this COVID was targeting. This COVID was especially difficult for elderly, for people that are in age, more or less. And I was just worried about my mom, and I recommend her to take vaccine. She did, and we all had COVID, by the way, and we deal with it like any flu. In my case, unfortunately, for about 5-6 months time, I was unable to. Whenever there was some food was made with onion, and every dish, almost every dish has an onion in it, right? I was to me it was smelling like a burning rubber. I don't know what happened, but for 25 freaking years, for 6 months, by the way, I just saw 2.5 years. John Dutchman was commenting, it took 2.5 years to get to me. So so for about 6 months, I had this. Whenever I was walking on the street and there is some restaurant there, I was smelling some burning rubber, and then eventually it just went away. That was a consequence of the COVID, only consequence. Otherwise, it was like any other flu. Christopher Bick is commenting. I appreciate onions. Yet onion in every recipe. No. In whichever dish you're gonna use onion. Whenever there was onion in something, unfortunately, it was smelling for me like burning rubber. Whole dish, by the way, whole dish. I could not eat for quite a while. I was only eating like bread and I don't know, cheese maybe, stuff like that, some salads, and then eventually it disappeared. Okay, that's a whole different story, by the way. It's more than 2 hours now I'm online. So thank you very much, dear friends, for your comments, for your questions, for this nice chat. Have a wonderful day, and if I manage, I will publish second news update today on Patreon and Boosty. Maybe part of it will be published on YouTube and Rumble. Also, let's see how I will manage to record that video. And otherwise, yes, that's it for today. Have a wonderful day, and take care. Bye for now.